Clair Obscur Expedition 33 hides more than you think just beneath the surface. Entire areas, strange structures, and unfinished content the player was never meant to see. Ask yourself this, did Dark Shores feel smaller than it should have been? Did the Endless Tower feel more like a menu than an actual tower? Well, using a few mods, I broke through the boundaries that Sandfall set, and what I discovered was amazing and at times unsettling. Let me show you what I found. On my first playthrough, I was hyped to return to Dark Shores. I wanted revenge for my fallen comrades and to unravel the mystery of that gruesome scene with Renoir. But there just wasn't much there. I looked around, got my revenge, and I left. It wasn't until I came back later with some game-breaking tools that I realized Dark Shores is way bigger than it lets on. See this ship over here?
Go, go, gadget legs!
It's blocking a hidden path through the mountain. Past it, you'll find an unfinished area that the devs covered up, complete with grappling points, climbing routes, and this dead scavenger among other things. Dropping under the map, we can even see the limbs of a massive dead Nevron. This entire area is covered in the same bright yellow goop that we see in Old Lumiere, maybe tying this place back to Simon. Now, here's a theory. Maybe Gustav wasn't originally meant to black out here and wake up in Spring Meadows. Maybe he was supposed to pass through this area, which makes sense given that Dark Shores and Spring Meadows are right next to each other. There's even a zone-out portal at the back of this zone. I was really excited to see where it led, thinking maybe I'd find more cut content. Turns out it just drops you in the middle of the ocean. Back in Act 1 Lumiere, I was hoping to find the life enjoyers you hear early in the game, but nah, just an empty building. Come on, Sandfall.
It's called an immersive experience, David.
I also checked out some of the rooms you can see through the windows. Turns out they're just flat images. And of course they are. Why would they render interiors that you can never reach? I was about to leave Lumiere, thinking it was kind of a bust, until I got a closer look at the statue high above the fountain. And there, I found Verso. Scar over his left eye and everything. Pretty neat. I'll come back to Lumiere in Act 3 later and show you something strange hiding in this little bubble. Now, just outside the canvas version of the Desandra Manor is a lone record player that's just floating in space. Zoom in and you can see it's labeled Decagon, which is actually a 3D outsourcing studio, probably one Sandfall worked with. Why it's here, I have no clue. The only time we can explore the real-world manor is when Alicia wakes up before the start of Act 3. And I'm not totally convinced this is actually the real world, and here's 3 quick reasons why. In Renoir's atelier, look at this cake with a melting Eiffel Tower stamped 33. This whiskey bottle says made in Lumiere, even though Alicia says Paris is outside the manor. Even the monolith painting is still here marked with a 33. But perhaps the biggest clue is that from Alicia's room, you can see the Eiffel Tower out the window. But in Verso's ending, the tower is clearly in front of the manor. There's more to this theory, like Verso's grave, but I'm getting off track. Let me know if you want a deeper dive on that.
Jesus Christ, that right there is the mail.
Before we leave, check out this alternate angle I got of Alicia's nightmare with Verso caught in the fire. No secrets here, just a cool alternate perspective. Oh, and I broke the game and had Mael in the room the whole time, which is pretty creepy. Taking a closer look at Haller in Old Lumiere, we get a clear view of its face. No eyes rendered, and Simon's sword just poking through its forehead. Side note, Haller seems to have been cut content. Some players digging through the game's files found a boss arena and some attacks linked to Haller. In Flying Waters, you first see a massive Bourgeon across a chasm, completely unreachable. We'll fly over there and it's fully fightable. In fact, all the Bourgeons in this unreachable field can be fought. Naturally, this made me wonder if I could fight those giant World Eater Nevrons scattered across the continent, but nah, they're just for show. Next up, in Renoir's drafts, we get a glimpse of the Axon known as the Reacher. We'll get an even better look at it in its own zone later on. Under the area where you find the chromatic creation, there's this dev note, late game optional haircut, coupled with this inactive Chapelier? Kinda weird. Further in, there's a mysterious room with 2 statues, both being zapped by this kind of frozen yellow lightning. Could this have been part of a mind control plot that got cut? Remember, Simon's journal mentions losing his mind to Renoir down here. If we break through the walls of this zone, we can see that this entire area really is below the monolith, which is a pretty cool detail. As for the Sinister Cave, it's always felt kinda off to me. Dark, claustrophobic, and oddly empty. Just a chromatic Brûleur and a dead Gestrel. But just beyond that Gestrel, there's a grapple point that you can't reach. Flying over there, I found a small clearing and then a pitch black drop. Beyond that is a weird tunnel maze that's just all dead ends. At this point, I felt like the devs built this just to mess with idiots like me. Now, a lot of players were disappointed by the Endless Tower. On the world map, it looks like this epic place to climb, but it turns out it's just a menu of combat trials. And what's up with these strange red canvases that you just can't interact with? Well, I have a theory. If you look up, you'll see that there's something up there. And that's because all the combat arenas from the trials are actually stacked on top of one another, forming the actual tower. So technically, we really did climb the Endless Tower, we just may not have noticed. Now, if you count the blank canvases here, there are 11, same as the number of stages in the tower. So it's likely each canvas here represents one trial, with the other two represented by the other red canvases. Maybe the blank canvases were meant to be painted with something once you completed a stage, but if so, that feature was just never finished, and we may never know. At the start of Visage, there's an ominous looking pit in the center that you just can't reach. Taking the camera down there, we find a room with faces all over the walls and some dead expeditioners who look like they were trying to climb out. The strange thing is that the journal here is the same one you find elsewhere in Joy Vale. No idea why this exists, let me know if you've got a theory. Now let's talk about the Reacher, because this one's really wild. I was always confused by its design. See, in the painting at the manor, it looks totally different from what we see in the scene with Alicia. So when I saw it moving, I immediately broke the free cam, and sure enough, there's two completely different models. The one on the right is sitting just out of the player's view, and it's the one we saw earlier, while the one moving away is the original Reacher model. Flying over to it, we can see it walks with stilts, wears samurai-like armor, and has a cowl covering its head. This version looks way cooler, honestly. I get why they changed it so we could have the scene we did with Alicia and Mael, but still, the cut version had some real style. Now for Lumiere Act 3. First stop is the Opera House. Buried in the wall is a dev note, which took me a few minutes to make out, but it looks like it says Expedition Academy, which is probably just an internal dev label for the building, but it makes you scratch your head. You can also get close to the messy, low-poly creations that are flying through the sky, and these flat, 2D cutouts of Mael's Chroma army. Whatever happened to those guys? But what I really want to show you is this bubble, which only appears when you get close to it. Inside is the full set for Verso's ending, the grave, the manor in the background, and a couple of strange gesture models. The odd part here is that I'm pretty sure Verso's ending is a pre-rendered CGI video, so why does this set exist in-game? My guess is that they originally planned to render it in-game and change direction late in development due to time constraints. And that's kind of a running theme. There's so much it feels like Sandfall wanted to do but didn't have the time or resources to finish. Still, they made a phenomenal game. I'm just greedy and I want more of it. Maybe we'll get DLC someday, fingers crossed. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think was cut or what you'd wish they'd included. Thanks for watching. And if you want more lore and theories about Expedition 33, check out one of my recent videos here or this full playlist of all my Expedition 33 videos.